It was a hot afternoon in the small village of Ayatoro. Children ran barefoot across the dusty roads, their laughter filling the air like music. But in one corner of the village, sitting alone under a mango tree, was a boy named Tunde. Tunde was different. His skin was dark. Not just dark, but very dark. Darker than most people in the village. His classmates often teased him. They called him names like Shadow, Charcoal, and Midnight. Go away, you're too dark, they would shout when he tried to play with them. Tunde didn't understand why his skin was a problem. His mother, Mama Taitai, always told him he was handsome. She would smile and rub his cheeks, saying, "You are my king. Your skin is like polished stone." Don't listen to them. But outside their small house, the world was not so kind. In school, the teachers ignored him. During class performances, he was always kept at the back. Once, when they were choosing a boy to represent the school in a photo competition, Tunde raised his hand, but the teacher looked at him and said, "You? No. We need someone that will look good in the picture." Tunde felt his chest tighten. He lowered his hand and said nothing. Each day, he asked himself, why did God make me like this? At night, he would sit outside and look at the stars, wondering if somewhere out there, he would be accepted. But Tunde wasn't weak. He kept going to school. He helped his mother sell roasted corn after class. He smiled through his pain. One day, a visitor came to their village. A man from Lagos, dressed in stylish clothes, wearing dark glasses, and holding a big camera. He said he was a photographer searching for beautiful faces in hidden places. The village people rushed to meet him. Mothers pushed their children forward. "See my daughter. She's pretty. Look at my son. He's fair and handsome." But when the photographer saw Tunde sitting under the mango tree, he paused. He walked toward him. Tunde looked up, confused. "What's your name, boy?" the man asked. "Tunde," he replied quietly. The man studied his face carefully. Interesting." Tunde frowned. "Interesting?" The man smiled. "You are special." That was the first time anyone outside his mother had said something kind about his skin. The photographer took some quick pictures of him. "I'll be back," he said. "Don't forget me." But Tunde didn't believe him. He thought it was just empty words. Months passed. Life continued. Then, one morning, everything changed. A black car drove into the village. Inside was the same photographer, but this time, he wasn't alone. A woman with short hair and glasses stepped out with him. She looked important. They asked for Tunde. Mama Taita was scared at first. "What happened? Is he in trouble?" "No, madam. Your son is special. We want to take him to Lagos. He can become a model." Mama Taita's mouth opened in shock. "Model? This boy? But they always say he's too dark." The woman smiled kindly. "That's why we want him." Tunde stood quietly, confused and scared. "Me? A model?" "Yes." "Tunde, people pay to take pictures of faces like yours." Tunde's heart raced. That day, he faced a choice: stay in the village where he was rejected, or follow strangers to a city he didn't know. His mother knelt beside him and whispered, "Go, my son. Maybe God is answering your prayers." With tears in his eyes, Tunde nodded. He was leaving the only life he knew. He packed his few clothes into a small bag, hugged his mother tightly, and got into the black car. As the village disappeared behind him, he whispered to himself, "Maybe, just maybe, I am not a mistake." That was the day Tunde's real story began. The journey to Lagos was long. Tunde sat quietly in the back seat of the black car, staring at everything he saw through the window. His heart was beating fast. He had never left his village before. The roads were big. The cars moved fast. The houses stood tall, touching the sky like trees. And the people. There were so many people. When they arrived in Lagos, the photographer, Mr. Jide, smiled at him. "Welcome to the City of Mirrors," he said. Tunde didn't understand. "City of Mirrors? You'll understand soon, mister," Jide replied. They drove to a small guest house, where Tunde would stay for now. Everything felt strange to him. The soft bed, the white tiles, the glass shower. It was nothing like home. Later that evening, the woman with glasses came to see him. Her name was Madame Clara. "I am the owner of Golden Face Modeling Agency," she explained. "I've seen thousands of faces, but your face, your skin, it's rare." Tunde was shy. He looked down. She touched his chin softly. "Tunde, you're going to change the world's idea of beauty." Tunde didn't know what that meant, but her voice was calm. He believed her. The next day, his training began. Every morning, He woke up early. He learned how to walk properly, how to stand tall, how to look straight into a camera without fear. They taught him how to pose, how to smile, and sometimes how not to smile. But it wasn't easy. His first week, many people at the agency stared at him. Some laughed quietly. Who brought this village boy here? Why is he so dark? What brand will want him? Even other young models avoided him. Tunde heard their whispers. He felt the old pain again. His skin was still a problem, but every time he wanted to give up, he remembered his mother's voice. You are my king, so he stayed. He trained harder. Every night, he stood in front of the small mirror in his room and practiced his smile, his walk, his poses. One morning, Madame Clara called him. We have a photo shoot today. For what? Tunde asked. For a skincare brand. Tunde was surprised. Skincare? But I'm too dark. Exactly why they want you. Madame Clara said. The studio. Lights were everywhere. Cameras clicked. People adjusted clothes, checked makeup, gave orders. When Tunde stood in front of the camera, he felt small again. Relax, the photographer said softly. But how could he relax? His heart was racing. Then Mr. Jide whispered from behind the camera. Tunde, remember who you are. Remember the boy under the mango tree. Tunde closed his eyes. He saw his village. He saw his mother's smile. He felt the dust under his bare feet. And when he opened his eyes, something changed. He stood tall. He posed. He didn't try to hide his skin. He let the lights shine on it. The camera clicked again and again. The shoot ended. Days passed. Tunde returned to training. He forgot about the photo shoot until one morning. Everything changed. His face was everywhere. On billboards, on posters, on buses. The words beside his photo read true beauty, true skin. People talked. People asked, who is this boy? Modeling agencies from other countries noticed him. Social media users shared his picture, calling him the boy with the skin of gold. Suddenly, the boy who was rejected for being too dark became famous for his darkness. But Tunde didn't let it change him. He called his mother and said softly, Mama, they see me now. Her reply made him cry. I've always seen you, my son. Soon, invitations started coming in. London, Paris, South and Africa, fashion shows, magazine covers. But with every new job, Tunde remembered his past in interviews. He told his story. I was called Shadow. Now I shine. Children who looked like him sent him letters. You make me feel beautiful. You give me hope. Tunde realized something important. He wasn't just modeling clothes. He was modeling confidence. He was modeling pride. He was showing the world that dark skin is not a mistake. It's a masterpiece. And yet, deep inside, Tunde knew his journey wasn't over. He had climbed, yes, but he wasn't at the top yet. Because success isn't just about being seen. It's about changing how people see. And that was the mission Tunde now carried. A mission bigger than fame. A mission of healing. A mission of light, even in the darkest skin. Tunde sat in the airplane, looking out the window as clouds floated beside him. His heart beat fast, not from fear, but from wonder. For the first time, he was leaving Nigeria. Destination, London Fashion Week. He remembered sitting under the mango tree in his village. The boy who was once rejected was now flying to one of the biggest fashion shows in the world. When he arrived in London, the cold air hit his face. He wore the thick jacket Madame Clara had bought for him, but he still shivered. Everything looked different. The streets, the buildings, even the smell of the air. A car picked him up from the airport and drove him to a hotel where other models from around the world were staying. He looked at their faces, tall, slim, different hair colors, different skin tones, but all confident. Tunde felt small again. Maybe they would laugh at him. Maybe they would say he was too dark here too. But he remembered Madame Clara's words before he boarded the plane. Remember, they didn't bring you to London to see another London face. They brought you because of you. He repeated those words to himself like a song. The next morning, he went for rehearsals. The runway was long, shining under bright lights. He saw experienced models walk gracefully, heads high, eyes forward. He tried to copy them, but stumbled once. The instructor shook her head slightly. Tunde felt embarrassed. But then, a male model from Ghana walked up to him. His name was Kwame. First time? Kwame asked with a smile. Yes, Tunde replied softly. Kwame nodded. Don't worry. Walk like you're telling your story, not theirs. That advice stayed in Tun's mind. When it was his turn to walk again, he breathed slowly and imagined the dusty roads of his village. Each step he took on that runway was like walking back home. But this time, people were watching. And this time, they weren't laughing. They were clapping. The rehearsals ended. Show day arrived. The backstage was noisy. Stylists fixed hair. Designers adjusted clothes. Makeup artists rushed around. Tun stood quietly in one corner, dressed in a golden outfit, waiting for his turn. When his name was called, he stepped forward. The music started. The lights hit him. The world's eyes turned toward him. And Tun walked, not like a scared village boy, but like a king. The moment felt slow and fast at the same time. Cameras flashed. People whispered, "Who is he? Look at his skin. So pure. So unique." As he reached the end of the runway, he paused as trained, then turned and walked back, his face calm, his steps steady. When he got backstage, Madame Clara, who had flown in to surprise him, was waiting. She hugged him tightly. "I told you, they'll see you." The next day, newspapers and magazines featured his picture. Meet Tun, the dark star of London Fashion Week. His social media exploded. People from every country sent him messages. Some shared their pain. "I was bullied for my skin. I thought I was ugly until I saw you. You are my hope." Tun replied to as many as he could. "Thank you. Stay proud. Your skin is your power." Soon, modeling agencies from Paris, Milan, and New York started calling Madame Clara. They all wanted Tun, but fame wasn't what touched him the most. It was one message from a small girl in Kenya that broke his heart. She wrote, "They called me black ugly in school, but now I tell them I am black beautiful because of you." Tun sat on his hotel bed that night and cried. He realized he wasn't just walking on runways anymore. He was walking into hearts. He was changing minds. He was healing wounds. But success brings pressure too. People expected him to always be perfect, always be strong, always smile. But some days, Tun felt tired. One day, during an interview, a journalist asked him, "How does it feel to be the dark model of the world?" Tun paused, then said softly, "Please don't call me that." The room went silent. "I am not dark as if I'm missing light. I am dark as if I hold light." That statement became famous. People printed it on shirts. "I am dark as if I hold light." Tun started using it as his message in interviews and speeches. But with all the attention, there was something missing. Home. Tun missed his mother. He missed his village. He missed the simple life. So, after a big show in Paris, he told Madame Clara, "I need to go home." She nodded, and he did. When he reached Ayatoro village, people gathered around him. They cheered, they clapped. "Mama Taitai's boy is back." Children ran to him. They all wanted pictures with him now. The boy they once called Shadow was now the pride of the village. At night, he sat with his mother under the same mango tree where he once cried alone. She looked at him, her eyes soft with love. "Do they still laugh at you, Tun?" He smiled. "No, Mama. Now, they celebrate me." She touched his face gently. "They are only now seeing what I've always seen." Tun looked at the stars above and whispered, "Thank you, Mama." That night, he made a decision. He wouldn't just model for himself. He would model for every child who felt too dark, too different, too invisible. He would build something bigger than himself. A dream was forming, and it was time to chase it. Tun couldn't sleep that night. Under the mango tree, beside his mother, he kept thinking about the children who wrote to him. The small girl from Kenya, the boys in his own village, the many people who had felt like him rejected because of their skin. A voice inside him kept repeating, "Do something. Don't just shine for yourself." By morning, he knew what he wanted to do. He called Madame Clara and said, "I want to start something for children like me." "What do you mean?" she asked. "I want to create a modeling school, but not just for teaching people how to walk on a stage. I want it to teach them how to believe in themselves." Madame Clara paused, then said softly, "That's a big dream, Tund. I know, and big dreams need brave hearts. I'm ready." That was how the idea for the Melanin Academy was born. Tun returned to Lagos and met with lawyers, architects, and sponsors. At first, many people didn't understand. Why help dark-skinned children? Why focus on them? But Tund answered calmly every time, because the world told us we were too dark. And now, it's time to tell the world that we are just right. With Madame Clara's help, he raised funds. He sold some of his modeling contracts to gather money. He used part of his own savings. Finally, after 1 year of planning, building, and praying. The Melanin Academy opened its doors. Lit wasn't a fancy place at first. A simple building with 2 large rooms, mirrors on the walls, and open spaces for training. But to the children who walked through its doors, it was a place where rejection ended and self-love began. Every morning, Tunde arrived early. He didn't hire people to do the work for him. He taught, he cleaned, he guided. Children from villages and cities came, boys and girls with dark skin, shy eyes, and scared hearts. He taught them how to stand tall, how to walk with pride, how to speak boldly, and, most importantly, how to see their skin not as a problem, but as a blessing. Soon, magazines and TV stations came to film the Melanin Academy and gave interviews, not as a model, but as a teacher. Beauty is not about color, he said in one interview. Beauty is about confidence. One day, a popular Nigerian singer visited the academy and posted a video online. It went viral. Soon, sponsors started donating. Within a year, the Melanin Academy opened 2 more branches in Abuja and in Ghana. Children across Africa now had a place where they felt seen. Tunde's own fame grew. He walked at shows in Paris, New York, and Milan. He appeared on the covers of top fashion magazines. He gave speeches at international conferences, but fame didn't change him. Every time he returned home, he taught at the academy, and every year, he returned to Ayatoro village to celebrate his shadow day, the day he had been called shadow but now used to share light. On the 5th anniversary of his academy, Tunde organized the biggest fashion show in Africa, but it wasn't for international models. It was for his students, children who had once been called ugly, too dark, or unwanted now walk the runway in front of thousands of people. The theme of the show? Darkness is beautiful. Tunde watched from the side of the stage as his students walked. He smiled, and tears filled his eyes. He wasn't crying because he was sad. He was crying because he saw himself in every single child. The boy who sat alone under the mango tree, the boy who believed he was not good enough. That boy had become a leader, and he was leading others into light. Later that night, after the show, Mama Tunde called him. I saw the pictures, my son. Tunde smiled. Are you proud of me, Mama? She laughed softly. I was proud of you even before the world knew your name. Tunde sat alone in his office after the call. He looked at the wall where a simple sentence hung dark as if I hold light. He knew his journey was far from over. There were more children to help, more minds to change, more dreams to build. But tonight, he allowed himself to rest, because a boy who was once called shadow had now become a lighthouse, and the world was following his light. Years passed. Tunde was no longer just a model. He had become a symbol of hope, of beauty, of pride. People around the world now knew his name not just in fashion magazines, but in classrooms, speeches, and social campaigns. Children recited his quotes. Artists painted his face. Brands wanted to work with him, not just because of his skin, but because of his message. But Tunde never forgot why he started. Every morning, he still woke up early. He still visited the Melanin Academy whenever he could. He still replied to messages from children who said, I am too dark. His answer was always the same. No, you are not too dark. You are perfect. One day, a major invitation came. An international charity organization asked him to speak at the United Nations in New York City. The topic? Changing the story of beauty. Tunde was nervous. He had walked in front of thousands on runways. He had stood before flashing cameras. But speaking in front of world leaders? That was different. He called Madame Clara. I'm scared. She laughed softly. Why? This is not your first runway. Tunde paused. But this is bigger. No, she said gently. The biggest runway you'll ever walk is the one where you speak your truth. Tunde smiled. He understood. On the day of the event, he wore a simple black suit. No flashy clothes. No jewelry. Just himself. When he stepped onto the stage, the lights were bright. People from every country sat in the audience. He stood quietly for a moment, looking at the crowd. Then, he spoke. I was once a boy who thought he was a mistake. The room fell silent. I thought my skin was wrong, that God had made an error, because people told me I was too dark, too ugly, too different. But I was wrong. He paused. My skin is not my weakness. It is my power. People sat up straighter. My darkness does not hide the light. My darkness holds the light. He looked around, and to every child listening, every person who has been told they are not beautiful, I stand here today to tell you your story is not over. The hall erupted in applause. Some people cried. Some people stood. Everyone clapped. That speech became famous. Media houses called it the runway speech. Tunde was offered more contracts, more interviews, more magazine covers, but that wasn't his goal anymore. Instead, he used his influence to build. The Melanin Academy expanded to 5 countries. He started scholarship programs for underprivileged children. He partnered with skincare brands to promote healthy skincare education, teaching young people that beauty is in care, not color. He created a children's book titled The Boy Who Shined, which told his life story in simple words for young readers. It sold millions of copies, but Tunde stayed humble. Every year, he returned to Ayatoro village. He rebuilt the local school. He installed streetlights. He built a small library named after his mother, Mama Tidai Learning Center. One day, a reporter asked him during an interview, "And you've achieved so much. What is your greatest success?" He didn't even think before answering. "My greatest success is seeing a child who once hated their skin now smile in the mirror." Years later, when he was older and had trained thousands of children, Tunde stood again under the mango tree where it all began. The tree had grown taller. So had he. He looked up at the branches, then whispered, "Thank you," because that tree had once been his shelter. Now, he was the shelter for others, and as he stood there, children from the village ran to him. "Uncle Tunde, tell us a story." Smiled. "What story do you want to hear?" One little girl said shyly, "The story of the boy who was too dark." Tunde laughed softly. "No. I'll tell you the story of the boy who was just right." And that's how Tunde's story continued. Not on magazine covers, not on TV, but in the hearts of children who finally believed me. Skin is not a mistake. My skin is a masterpiece. The end.